South Korea enjoys a 5,000-year history and culture. But with the advent of globalization and the development the country has undertaken over the last 50 years, Koreans are now looking outward. Globalization in South Korea is now more expressed in diversity, and Koreans increasingly embrace aspects of other cultures, including those of Middle Eastern, Arabian, and Islamic civilizations. In education, religion, art, and cuisine, Middle Eastern cultures are making their presence known. Like elsewhere in the world, the study of the Middle East in South Korea was spurred by historical events that brought the region's issues to the fore. But that initial fascination has not waned here, but encouraged more serious scholarship. Arabic and Middle East studies are taught at 3 universities in Seoul, and Arabic is taught at universities in Gwangju and Busan. Seoul National University, the country's top school, also plans to expand their course offerings in the area.
After September 11, Koreans' view of the Middle East changed. Unlike the Persian Gulf War, which drew attention to who and how the war broke out, the Iraq War interested Koreans in a different way. Koreans started to question what the fundamental reason or cause of the war was, and what was behind the conflict. So, studies of the Middle East deepened. Korean scholars specializing in the Middle East are now actively engaged in the study of Islamic civilization and regional issues.
Such exchanges are already paying dividends, as more students are pursuing area studies based on their travel experience.
I went to Turkey through a work camp program. I was a bit worried about going there in terms of safety, but when I went, I found the Turkish people to be very kind.
Contact through travel proves inspiring and can lead to a greater understanding and interest in regional issues. And young Koreans are not swayed by what is often prejudiced news coverage of events in the region.
I chose this class because of the biased media coverage of Iran. Most media focuses on the negative part of Iran, led by the Western media. And Korean reports focus on Iran's resources because we're importing a lot of oil. But I want to know about other things, like Iranian culture and people. I'm planning to go to Iran to study after this semester. I want to experience Iranian culture and language.
Groundwork for these exchanges was laid long ago, and then again motivated by events and the alternative pursued by Iran.
Many Korean Middle Eastern scholars focus about this issue, such as Islam and Islamic culture and relationship between USA and Middle Eastern countries. Every country go to westernization, but why Iranian people go to another way?
The interest in the Middle East is multifaceted, and perhaps the element of one's character which most defines the self is spirituality, religion. In this area, Koreans are most interested in Islam.
Korea has already their history, they have a culture, and they find so many similarities between Islamic culture and that of the culture of Korea. Every human being is in search of a truth. There are some basic questions in every person's mind and heart and soul that always makes a person to struggle and strive to find out the answer for these questions. So the Korean people, they also, these questions which are bothering them always force them to really find out the answer for these questions. This is what makes them to really to get interested in Islam, to find out whether Islam has the answer for their questions or not.
There are some 35,000 Korean Muslims. Once the step toward Islam is made, there can still be obstacles to overcome, even for those who end up most devout.
In 1961, a college friend of mine converted to Islam, and he introduced me to Islam. At the time, I was full of prejudice and misunderstanding about Islam, but after I studied the religion thoroughly, my attitude towards Islam changed, and I accepted it.
The experience of coming to Islam in South Korea is a difficult endeavor. But the Muslim community in South Korea is making efforts to ease access to Islam for newcomers.
Practicing Islam in Korea is not easy in many ways. Avoiding pork and alcohol is difficult because of Korean drinking culture, and Korean people are still prejudiced against Muslims. But when they accept the religion, we try to help them by teaching them Arabic so that they can understand Islam better.
With their economic development, South Koreans are becoming more sophisticated, and in their leisure activities they are seeking out new inspirations. The Glory of Persia, an exhibit of more than 200 historical relics, including gold vases and bracelets, demonstrates ancient Persian civilization and art. It offers another perspective to Koreans' understanding of Iranian culture.
깊어지는 이 기회를 맞이해서
The Iranian National Museum, which is providing the artifacts, is giving Koreans the chance to learn more about Persia. The relationship between South Korea and Iran has long been developing economically and now culturally.
모아서 이번에 전시회를 열게 됐습니다.
The Glory of Persia is in the midst of a two-city tour in the country and has been viewed by nearly 300,000 people so far. Koreans are also taking the opportunity to create adaptations from the history and figures of ancient civilizations with which, like the rest of the world, they are becoming more and more familiar. The musical Cleopatra, here in rehearsal, must adhere to high artistic standards if it wishes to play to anticipated mass audiences this fall.
클레오파트라는 작품을 또 만들었거든요.
These days, Korean musical audiences' standards are rising. They want more interesting and exotic subjects. There have been exhibitions on the themes of Arabian civilization and culture. So I think Korean audiences are very open to Middle East culture, and they will love this musical.
좋아하고 기뻐할 것 같아요.
Middle East cuisine is also attracting Koreans. This year has seen a number of small restaurants and stalls open in Itaewon, the international district of Seoul. The food is so popular, one writer referred to the competition for customers as the kebab wars.
When you want to eat one kebab, next time very fast you come back.
However, one should not lump all the nations of the region into a single category, and the proprietors of local restaurants take great pains to introduce their clientele to the authentic.
I started the restaurant in 2004. The reason I started the restaurant at that time, there was no Arabic restaurant. And being a Jordanian, we have a very rich history, we have a very rich culture, very rich tradition. Comes with it the food, a bridging gap between our culture and the Korean culture.
Like the efforts made by other cross-cultural ambassadors, this envoy seems to be succeeding.
저희가 먹기에 너무 맛있어서 이게
I first came to this restaurant with my friend. He found out about it on the internet. We really enjoy the food and the owner is very kind, so we kept coming back.
맛있었습니다. 앞으로도 자주 오려고요.
Other Middle East tastes are also enticing Koreans. This Arabic-style night spot sits in the trendy neighborhood of Hongdae in Seoul. Opened in February last year, no expense has been spared with interior fixtures and flavored tobacco imported from Morocco. On a number of levels, be it the quest for the exotic or a spiritual anchor, Middle Eastern cultures are captivating South Koreans. Trade is traditionally associated with globalization, and economic exchange between Korea and the Middle East is booming. But as we can see, trade is not the only exchange taking place. One should also keep in mind, although globalization may be at the center of this phenomenon, this interchange with what is foreign, it is not westernization. It is a complex development of relationships that permits the peoples of distant regions to better understand one another in their hearts and their minds. Frank Smith, Press TV, Seoul.